So spiritual, so anxiety, spiritual awakening, and the body. How are they linked? Why are they linked? And why do we say that people experiencing anxiety, quite a lot of people who are experiencing anxiety are actually going through an awakening process? I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. Everything's going wrong. Well, they say that spiritual awakening is coming fully into the present moment, coming fully into the present moment. Many of you will have read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And he speaks about how if you bring yourself into the present moment, if you allow your attention to come fully into the present moment, then there's no suffering within the present moment. And there's just this deep knowing of your own being, a deep knowing of the deeper dimension of what you really are. This unmovable, untouchable, fearless presence that we really are. It's what we really are. And spiritual awakening is coming to know what you really are. And what Eckhart Tolle points to is that in bringing your attention fully into this moment, you bring attention out of the false sense of self in the head. The false sense of self in the head lives in past and future. And the wonderful thing, it's not so wonderful when you're in the suffering, it's not so wonderful when you're in it, but the wonderful thing about anxiety is it creates this thought world completely in the future. It's always in the future. There's this suffering in the future. My future's going to be hell. Something's going to happen to me in the future that I'm not going to be able to cope with. Something's going to happen to me in the future whereby I'm not going to be okay. And that suffering of the future becomes so much that it can drive you mad, and it can drive you to have this intense suffering of anxiety. And in that is the opportunity to awaken spiritually. Because the only way to find freedom from that is to go beyond the mind. And the way to go beyond the mind is to come fully into this moment. And what is always in this moment? The body. You never experience a feeling in the body in the future or in the past. The feelings, the sensations that are present in the body, the energy of anxiety that is present in the belly, the energy of tension which is present in the heart, the tightness in the throat, the tension in the shoulders, all of the physical energy that goes along with the psychological reactions is in the present moment. The thinking is taking you into an imagined future, and that is the suffering, and that is you being in egoic consciousness. But the body, the sensations, are in the present moment. So what we can do, and this is the main thing that Alex and I teach, is we bring attention away from the thinking and straight into the body. And with our awareness, with our attention, we feel the feelings in the body. And when you do this, when you fully allow yourself to feel and experience all that is held within your body, every cell, and you can do this now with me, feel your hands, your feet, your legs, your arms, your belly, your chest, your throat. Allow your body to light up within your awareness. And if there's strong emotions, strong sensations, anxiety here, you feel that anxiety. And in feeling that anxiety, you're taken out of the suffering future or past thinking in the mind. But for the anxiety sufferer, it's usually future. You're taken out of the future and you're taken deeply into the body. And by being taken deeply into the body, you're taken deeply into this moment. And in that, you're not in your mind, you're in your being. And there is a causeless joy in that. There is a deep peace in that. There is a goodness in that. And that is where love flows. Love flows from your being. Your heart starts to open. And that is what we call spiritual awakening. It's not some big mystical experience where you see all these lights and angels and all of this stuff. Those experiences can happen. They can be a symptom of awakening, seeing things and having big sort of psychedelic type experiences. But this is simple. It's coming back to yourself. And you know this. It's not a strange, unusual experience. We all know ourselves, really. Through most of our childhoods, there were many moments or long, long stretches of being in your being. You wouldn't have conceptualized it. You were just being it. But as an adult, especially the anxiety sufferer, there's so much time is spent in the thinking that we get cut off from the felt sense of our own being. And that's why the anxiety sufferer has such a gift. That's such a gift to this experience. Because the way out of the anxiety is the way into the body. The way to free yourself from the suffering of the anxiety is to come into your body and to come into your being. It will force you into the awakening of your consciousness. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to start with. And I just want to pass it over to Alex and see, what would you say, mate? What's the link between anxiety, spiritual awakening, and the body?
I think when it comes to a spiritual awakening, there's naturally fear involved because there needs to be a dying process. There needs to be a letting go of, we call it the ego or sense of self, personhood. So there is a very real sense of fear, of annihilation or going through this dying process. So I think when it comes to spiritual awakening and anxiety, that's the link right there. It's naturally anxiety inducing to awaken spiritually. For most people, I'd say most people come to the spiritual path through fear, through anxiety. Um, yeah. And in terms of the body, it's like you were just saying then about having these kind of mystical experiences. It's, we have the chakras and people have all sorts of visions and see things and, like angels and that sort of stuff. And it's all cool and well and good. But really, the body comes into it in a very grounded and real type of way, or like the body is reality. So, what I'm saying here is we're approaching spirituality from the sense of the body. We're not approaching, which is real. The body is real. The body is always here. So when we approach spirituality from the body, from the sense of the body, it is way more effective. People tend to have a lot more success when they get in touch with the sense of the body and walk the spiritual path. And it's often neglected, like the body, it's usually kind of like spiritual awakening, a lot to do with the mind, and the body tends to, get neglected. So I think more people are getting turned on to uh, body work and, the type of stuff what we teach, but really the body is still kind of left behind in many traditions, many spiritual practices. So it's not actually that inclusive in spiritual awakening. There's a lot of practices that deny the body. In fact,
Yeah, it's a different type of awakening.
it's a different type of awakening. Yeah, exactly.
There's an awakening you
Right.
can have. Go on,
There's a
Alex.
different. Yeah, sorry to just dive back in. But yeah, there's a different type of opening. There's like I was just reading. Who's commented? I feel anxiety in my body. If I feel it, it doesn't seem to go away, and I feel bad. I'm just reading a comment in the comment section, and it's like feeling anxiety and it's not going away. We're kind of going off on a little bit of a diversion here, but it feels right. It's like, where are you feeling the anxiety from? Like, is it from the mind with an expectation, or is it from the body? And there's a subtle difference, but a significant difference. And that's kind of what I was talking about there, was feeling anxiety, approaching the spiritual path from the body. And I'm not saying you are doing it from the mind, but saying you feel bad, it's still there. I feel it in my chest. I'm just reading the next comment. There's a difference between getting in touch with that subtle, really fine sense of the sense of the body, or the consciousness within the body, and remaining objective from there, or just remaining there, remaining with the sense of the body. We're not going up into the mind. We're not trying to awaken spiritually and blow our third eye wide open and come into this God realm, and we're all levitating. It's like, no, spirituality and the way we're teaching it here is very simple. It's very simple. It's like, stay with the body. Okay, anxiety is there, it's not going. I'm with the body. Anxiety can be there, it can't be there. It doesn't really matter to you, because you're in your body. And that sense of the body starts to expand. And that, for me, is spiritual awakening, or what people would call spiritual awakening. The awareness of the body starts to expand. And once you have awareness of the body, there's not much that can really touch you. We call it fundamental okayness. Anxiety is there, nice one. Panic attacks, great. I'll just remain with the sense of my body. That may not come straight away, of course, it takes practice, but ultimately, that's the bodily component, that's the bodily connection, staying with that sense. How present can we be with that sense? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd just like to give a comment on that question as well. It's, Janice, you've highlighted the main thing that's keeping everybody stuck in anxiety, which is that we don't want to feel the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want the experience of anxiety to be there. That mechanism that's going on of you feeling anxiety in your chest and the thoughts saying, I don't like this, this feels bad. It's those thoughts saying, I don't like this, this feels bad, which is keeping that anxiety in the body going. There's a resistant pattern in you saying, I don't want this. And the point of us bringing people back to the body is to try to, and this can take a little bit of practice. You might not get it straight away. It can take a little bit of practice, listening to meditations, coming back to this teaching, putting it into practice. But it's about coming into the body without, you're not trying to get rid of the feelings. You're trying to be with the feelings, to feel the feelings. Now, the thoughts are simply resistant to what you're feeling. The thoughts, I don't like this, this feels bad, is you, that's the mind saying, I don't want this. And the reason we tell people to come back into the body is because if you really come gently into the body and you feel every cell of the hands, every cell of the arms and legs, and get that gentle sense of the body and come into the emotions, then we're trying to guide you out of resistance to what you're experiencing. The anxiety, don't try and get rid of it. If you come into the body to say, I'm coming in to feel my feelings because I want to get rid of them, they'll hang on and they'll get more. You come into the feelings without the intention to get rid of them, because the feelings in and of themselves are not causing you the suffering. You can experience the most intense panic moving through your body. You can experience the deepest dread, the deepest terror, the deepest feelings of angst, and you can be completely happy within it. You can be completely at peace within it. The suffering only happens when the thinking is moving. So yeah, just stay present with the feelings. And I'll give you one more little pointer as well. Notice the one inside that doesn't want to feel the feelings. Notice the one inside that doesn't want to be experiencing the experience that you're having. Become aware of the one that doesn't want to be having your experience. And this is a slightly different teaching, a slightly different method, but yeah, it's the inner child, the wounded inner child. And if you can really let that one in, you can see it, the inner child, the wounded inner child. Let it into your consciousness. Let the one that's resisting in as well. And if you let the one that's resisting in, then the resistance falls away and there's peace and there's joy. But we're slightly merging two teachings here. Yeah. Okay. Alex, did you want to? Thank you, Janice. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thanks, Janice. We took a nice detour there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was something that did come to me, but my mind has kind of gone blank. um, yeah, it's very easy when we're dealing with anxiety, any form of anxiety, social anxiety, health anxiety, PTSD, whatever it is, there's this tendency to try to contain it, to try to put it in a box, compartmentalize it, hold on to it, tighten our muscles, restrict our muscles, and hold it in. Like that is the natural tendency or the habits of a lifetime for most of us. So, what we're talking about right now may seem like, well, that's just impossible. It's just impossible because, anxiety comes up and then I just start to resist and it's painful and it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays where it is. But we are really doing a 180 and looking in a completely different direction, which is one of openness and inclusivity, like including everything. Like Chris was just saying then about the inner child, or Janice said about the inner child, like there's anxiety and then there's a load of other stuff, what's attached to that. So there's even deeper levels of feeling. And this is why it's so important that we include the body, because the body is the home of feeling. So although it's like, oh, I just feel anxiety, well, actually not for a lot of us, most of us, if not all of us, there is deeper and deeper levels of feeling that also want to come up and be processed. And I'm not saying that to scare us and put us off this work, but to really make progress and spiritual gains, we need to be willing to feel. We need to be willing to be open to what is, because what is happening no matter what, no matter whether we like it or not, it's going on. And it's this thing up here, our preference, our choice, saying I like, I don't like, which is driving us crazy. So what we're teaching here and our, business company is called Back to the Body. Our teaching is back to the body for a reason, because in many ways, and it's not all doom and gloom up here, but in many ways, the only way to really fully delve into this stuff is through the body, in my opinion. Maybe some people would argue against that, and their arguments would be valid. But in truth, I can't really see any way to make progress on this path without including the body. Real progress. I'm talking about getting into sort of deep spiritual growth, not having some mystical experience up top or a quiet mind. I'm saying let's get in there, let's lift up You know, I was going to lift up all these rocks and trees and logs and all this stuff down in the body, this earthly body, and let's see what's going on. Let's have a look and let's do it together, and let's really have a look and say, yeah, I'm open. And you can do this. You can do this even though you're scared, even though you're anxious. Okay, that's there anyway. I often say the anxiety sufferer is amongst the most toughest, strongest of people. There is no person out there stronger than the anxiety sufferer, because what they have to deal with is uncomprehendable to the average person, because they're just going about their daily life. But for someone who experiences anxiety, everything is just a hassle, everything is just an effort. So what I'm saying is we're doing it anyway, we're putting all of our energy in containing this. Why don't we put our energy somewhere else? Let's start to invest our energy into the body and give us some freedom, give us a break, give the mind a rest. Anyway, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you can chime in.
Yeah, so I'll just bounce off that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the anxiety sufferer is trying to hold it all together. In fact, you don't even realize that that's happening. There's something within you holding on, trying to hold it all together, and it's this energy, this unprocessed energy. You could say below the neck, but it's in the head as well. Just in the body, there's this unprocessed energy which is trying to find resolution. It's trying to find resolution. And the more you grow in awareness, the more you grow in consciousness. And one of the ways in which you grow in consciousness is by deepening your connection with the body. The more these feelings are allowed to come up into the light of awareness. Nobody, if all of your trauma and all of your conditioning and all of that stuff, and I know most people know this, if all of that released from your system, you would have no anxiety. You'd be completely at peace. The anxiety is caused by the repressed feelings and repressed emotions, repressed anger. Were you allowed to be angry as a kid? Were you allowed to cry as a kid? Or were you shouted at for crying? I was shouted at for crying. Were you allowed to scream and shout and be yourself as a kid? Were you allowed to be fully joyful as a kid? Because joy is an energy as well. And if that joy is clamped down, joy is an energy just like anxiety. It's the same. It's the same. Joy is an energy. And if that is clamped down as a kid, then you're containing joy inside your body. So you're not experiencing joy, you're containing it. It's compressed. And that creates so much tension, so much stress at the surface. So your job as a body-based warrior, that's what we call our Facebook group, a warrior, because you are a warrior if you're experiencing this, especially if you take on the challenge of undoing this. The body-based warrior is like I said on a previous call, that bottle of Coke that's all fizzed up. You're kind of slowly turning the cap and letting the pressure that's built up inside, the emotional, energetic pressure, come out. And you do that through various practices, meeting the body, getting more and more in touch with your silent nature, the silent nature of mind, because mind truly is silent. The true mind, the deeper mind, the vaster mind is completely quiet. The thinking sounds noisy, but that thinking, the only reason you can experience it as noisy is because it's happening on top of a background of silence. So we need to get in touch with that silence as well as coming into and meeting the feelings. And it can sound like, oh, I've got to meet all these feelings. Like, what the hell? Like, that doesn't sound fun, but it is fun.
Mm-hmm.
We love it. I love it. I never experience more pleasure, more happiness, more bliss than when I'm meeting these feelings and it's opening out of my body, opening out of my nervous system. Because if you've experienced this, you know, if you've experienced an energetic contraction of fear or anger or whatever in your system, and you finally meet it with your awareness, and it opens up. You might start shaking, or in most cases not, but in some cases you would. And it starts releasing through your body. You feel it as this light, the joy that was compressed opens up within your heart. And Alex mentioned the chakra systems, and people in New Age spirituality are always going on about the chakras. Oh, I've opened this chakra, opened that chakra. I'll do this little technique of visualizing light to open the chakras. I want to awaken my kundalini by chanting. Or no, you want to open the chakras, you want to open your kundalini, meet your feelings. That is the most powerful way to open these chakra centers. The chakra centers are real. When you start meeting the feelings, they start gradually becoming obvious to you. Throat, heart, solar plexus, sexual center, third eye, crown chakra. This stuff all starts opening. And this energy that we experience as anxiety, or not just anxiety, but all the emotional energy, which can have caused us a lot of suffering, which can have thrown us into a psychological, spiritual crisis. All of these energies that start opening up start to become wonderful aspects of our own consciousness, wonderful qualities of our own consciousness. If your heart has been broken, if it was broken and closed down as a kid, time and time again, and you grew up with this defensiveness over your heart, and that's led to a depression or fear, when you start to get back in touch with that, when you do the work and you courageously meet yourself, and that heart chakra starts opening, and this energy starts flowing through it, this energy of love, this joyful, like, nectar of love and joy starts opening up. You're like, wow, there's such an appreciation for it. And this is why we say it's completely different. Awakening through the body is different than awakening from the mind. And I like to teach both because you need to awaken from the mind. But to awaken through the body as well, there's this juice in it. And that is what Tantra is. Tantra isn't necessarily a sexual thing. Tantra is the full meeting of every part of yourself and knowing that it can all be transmuted. There's a transmutation that takes place, a transmutation of these old energies, these contracted energies, which we call pain, which we call whatever the emotions are. Every emotion can be transformed into a divine quality, a quality of joy, a quality of beingness, a quality of happiness. It's a hell of a process. It's a hell of a process. But what's the alternative? To suffer for your whole life, because the anxiety sufferer isn't going to find, if it's mild, they might, but if it's kind of not mild, which is most people's, the anxiety sufferer isn't really going to find freedom by just simply waking up to awareness out of the mind. That won't last. That won't give you what you're looking for, because all of this stuff will keep playing out inside. This stuff needs to unwind out of the system. To unwind into the light that you are. And that is spiritual awakening, discovering the light that you are and becoming completely unafraid of the darkness within yourself. Because darkness is really light in disguise. Just say one more thing, I want to pass it over to Alex. But one of my teachers said, enlightenment doesn't come from chasing the light. Because if you're chasing the light, really what you're saying is, I don't want to feel the darkness. And then you're in a resistance to yourself and you're in ego. Enlightenment doesn't come from chasing the light. It comes from being warmly okay within the darkness. So okay within the darkness that you don't have a preference between darkness and light. This is deep, this is profound. And this is what life is calling for you if you're suffering, to discover this. True liberation. True liberation. Okay, thank you. Alex, I don't know if any questions have come in or you wanted to speak.
Yeah, I'm just thinking where to go with this. I mean, I can do some bioenergetics, or we could we could maybe just do some Q&A if there's some questions. I'm kind of enjoying talking rather than leading today. I mean, I always teach if you've been on these calls with me before, but I mean, I'm happy to do both. Is there any questions?
Yeah,
Um,
let's do Q&A. Let's do some Q&A then.
yeah, should we do some Q&A?
And we'll leave. We won't be too long today. We said it'd be 45 minutes. So if you need to leave at whenever, it's okay. It's okay to leave just in case we do go over.
See if some
Um,
questions come in, and if they don't, I can maybe just lead a shoulder sequence, just give people a taste of some bioenergetics and what's on the 8-week program. What we've got
s-
coming up.
so Mrs. Mayer Menon, who's booked a consultation call with me tomorrow, I think. By the way, if anybody wants to book a call, we've got some space tomorrow. It's 15 minutes where you can chat to either Alex or I. Um, but yeah, she asks how to overcome um, health anxiety, which we did cover in one of the previous calls. So you might want to watch the second call towards the end in the Q&A. But we can jump on that a little bit now. Alex, do you want to say a few words on how to overcome health anxiety?
Yeah, like back to what I was saying, it can be whatever label we give to it, but obviously the question's on health anxiety, so we'll go with that. And where I'd go with this is that health anxiety is your spiritual practice. Like right now, health anxiety, whatever the narrative is, whatever the story is, whatever you keep checking on Google, and whatever keeps coming up, and all these stories going around, that is your spiritual practice,
Yes.
which is to disidentify, come back into the sense of the body and away from these stories. Stop allowing, sounds a bit, I don't want to sound harsh, but I do like to be direct. Stop allowing your consciousness, your awareness that you are going out towards whatever it is that's scaring you. It may be a part of your body, it may be something online, whatever it is for you. There's some object which is causing you problems, anxiety. So, what I would invite you to do is when you start to either scroll on Google or get into an anxious state about something in particular, something health related, stop. Stop in that moment and feel your body, feel the sensation of your body. You may only be able to do this for half a second, but that is half a second more than you was doing. And the more you can train your awareness to stay with the sense of the body, the more okay you will be. The more fundamental okayness will come online. So it doesn't matter what's going on health wise, as long as you can retrain your awareness to stay with the sense of the body, then you will start to feel more peace, more joy. And actually, within time, within time, you'll get more interested in what's going on in the body, in the sense of the body, the sensation, the aliveness, the vitality of the body, than you will becoming obsessed with health anxiety, whatever the narrative is. So just try it for this week. The next couple of weeks, the thing comes up, the object comes up, the natural habit comes up. In that moment, just see if you can stop for 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds, feeling into that subtle, fine sensation of the body is my advice for that. I could say that for everything, actually,
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah.
Because
I'd love.
really, what you're dealing with is repression. Sorry to just continue, but what you're dealing with is repressed emotions. You're dealing with repression. It's not so much the health anxiety. This is where quite a lot of us get stuck. but there's repressed emotions in the system. You know, we can say the blocking of the chakras, these innate qualities of joy, of peace, of groundedness, of stability. And what's happening is what's going on in the body, the mind is making a story out of it up top. In your case, it's health anxiety. And that's the story. That's what I'm going with. This is what my issue is. But actually, no, on a deeper, more fundamental level, what's going on is you're dealing probably, I don't know your personal story, but probably with years, if not decades, of repression, of pushing feelings back down into the body, like Chris was saying, anger, sadness, joy, whatever, sexuality, and all that is trying to come up. And the mind, being what it is, it needs to make a story out of it. So I'm saying, ignore that story and go deeper within. And these repressed feelings will start to move through. And as a result of this, in time, you'll feel much better. I guarantee it.
Thank you, Alex.
And if you want to, Chris, of course, you just go for it.
Yeah, I'll just say, I like to say something as well. So when Alex is speaking, it's kind of sparking little things in me as well. I love what you said at the start, Alex. This is anything that you have, like, okay, I have health anxiety. This is my thing. The health anxiety is your golden ticket to freedom, actually. The health anxiety is your ticket to freedom. Because it's drawing it's it's drawing you so much into the suffering in the mind that the only way out of that suffering is to find freedom, to find the freedom of being. And the other thing I wanted to say is, like, the health anxiety one in the head, that's not you. You're not health anxiety. It's thoughts in the head going on. They're just happening. You can't control them. If you could control them, you just stop thinking them, but you can't. It's happening within you. And what's happened is that's taken you over to a certain degree. Some people, it takes them completely over. But there's this presence that's knowing it. There's something which is knowing it. You are knowing it. You're the one who's knowing it. You're the one who is aware of it. You're the awareness within which the health anxiety self is happening. And if you get more and more in touch with that awareness, then the health anxiety self can settle down. I didn't know I was going to say that. That just kind of came out of nowhere. But it's true. You know it. You're the knowing of it. You're the awareness that it's happening within. And the other thing I was going to say is it wants to survive. That's why it's taken a hold of you. It's like all of these patterns. If we have a strong mind pattern of anxiety, of health anxiety, it wants to survive. The reason it's happening is because it thinks that by thinking these thoughts, it's keeping you safe. It's trying to survive. It doesn't want to die. So when you bring yourself into the body like this, it can feel so hard to do that. It can feel like all your attention gets so easily pulled back into the fearful thoughts because that mechanism doesn't want to die. And when it notices that you're becoming present, it can freak out a bit. But you are stronger than it. You are more powerful than it. And this is your awakening. You are more powerful than your mind. Your presence is more powerful than your mind. And you find the tools to bring yourself back into the present moment. Like I said, health anxiety is thinking of the future. It can be worrying about symptoms in your body that are happening now, but it's all about something bad's going to happen in the future. You bring yourself into the moment, and this is your golden ticket into the now. And if it's consistent and you have a lot of trauma keeping it going, that's a consistent spiritual practice, an incredibly powerful one. Monks can go off to the mountains and spend a lifetime meditating 10 hours a day in a cave to try and achieve what somebody with intense anxiety can achieve in weeks, months, or a few years. I mean that. I 100% mean that. In a week, somebody with intense anxiety could go through a shift greater than what a monk meditating in a cave who isn't experiencing anxiety wouldn't be able to achieve in an entire year. This is how profound the opportunity of anxiety is. If you want awakening, if you have this spark in your heart, yes, I want that, which is actually what every single person on the planet wants, whether they realize it or not. This is your opportunity, so take it. The power is in your hands. Find a way and try out what we're saying. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you on the call tomorrow. Yeah. Were there
So
any other?
just saying, Chris, there's a question on depression. Can this also help with depression? Are we talking about the the body, the course, what we're talking about here? Uh,
I
yeah,
think
bioenergetics,
I think she's talking about this work in general, this
the
work that
work
we
in general.
discussed.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so can this help with depression? I mean, the answer in short is absolutely yes. Yeah, we're not naturally born to be depressed. We are not naturally inclined to be down and to be heavy and to feel as though the world is difficult. That's not what we're here for. So, coming into the body, um, we are connecting or reconnecting with our natural sense of aliveness. And what I really love about this work, which doesn't really get mentioned too much in spirituality, is that we are getting in touch with our animal nature, our primal nature. This sense of aliveness in the belly, this sense of openness in the heart, this joy that we see in children, that we see in animals. And that they're everything. No, not everything. They're the opposite of depression. So if you look at an animal, if you look at a child, you know, most of the time, if not all of the time, they are the opposite of depression. And most of us have built this kind of framework within our minds where we live, and as I was saying, this preference of okay, not okay. What we're doing here is actually getting in touch with the rest of our experience. And the rest of our experience is pure aliveness, is the opposite of depression. Um, that's one thing I'd say. Something else what's just come to me, what my teacher used to say, I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but he says that depression is the closest emotion, that's what we want to call it, or closest state to enlightenment. So when somebody is depressed, that sort of like pointless, surrendered, what the fuck, attitude is the closest experience to enlightenment, even more than like joy and ecstasy and things like that. I mean, he articulates it a lot better than I can. But my point, or where I'm going with this, is when you feel depressed, or if you're feeling depressed, you can really feel into the quality of what depression is. And I'm also somebody who suffered with depression. Feeling into it, there is a sense of openness within depression, of just like being fully detached from things bringing, external things, relationships, money, partners, bringing us joy. And in that, there is a fulfillment that starts to happen. Depressed equals depressed. Yeah, yeah, it's a good saying. Um, so that's what I'd say. But yeah, if you maybe want to chime in, Chris.
Yes, I'll just go off what you were saying. I wouldn't usually have spoken in that way about it, but I agree. So when the depression comes, there's a heaviness there. So one way you can use it, you can use everything to awaken. Say you're lying in bed and you wake up and you feel depressed and down. And that feeling, depression, depressed equals deep rest. Okay, so allow yourself to go into that more fully. Allow yourself into it more fully. And as you're allowing yourself into it more fully, can you feel just a little sense of something inside that is okay? You might experience it as this tiny little smile, this tiny little smile. And the depression can be big and it can feel all consuming. But if you can just experience that tiny little smile and just give yourself to that, then that's a very powerful spiritual experience. I might need to talk about that in different ways to kind of show you that. But it's like going with it can be powerful. The other thing, which is where I usually start if someone tells me they have depression, is to move the body, to open up the energetic system physically, like what Alex teaches with bioenergetics, is one of the best things I've found. To open the system physically, to physically move the body. Because depression, yeah, like it wants to close you down, but to open up, to go the other way. Because somebody can be depressed, they can be spiritual and depressed, and they can think, oh, I'm being spiritual by lying in bed all day and meditating, but actually that can be a denial. Sometimes we need to go the other way and go for a run and put ourselves out there and kind of break out of it. So you need to feel into it yourself and see what's best. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's such a fine line with depression. You know, you can, um, yeah, really kind of get a lot from it spiritually by resting into the sense of the body and having them um, moments of deepening. And then there's also the other side, which is like, actually, no, we just need to move. Like, we need to move the body. We need to go for a run. We need to breathe some fresh air or do some bioenergetics.
mm,
It's really kind of intuitively gauging what is best in that particular moment.
yeah, yeah,
And as Chris said, bioenergetics is great for that. It's yeah, it's all about getting the energy flowing and yeah, opening up the body, the opposite of depression.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the time. We said 45 minutes. I'm quite enjoying chatting and sharing, but we just wanted to mention, you've probably all seen, but we've got a course starting on Tuesday, 8-week course, Alchemizing Anxiety, where we just go deeply, deeply into this. Um, we go deeply into all of this stuff. We give but lots of practices as well, guided meditations to guide you into the experience over that 2-month period. And Alex is leading live bioenergetic sessions every Tuesday. Callum, who's on the call, is leading sharing circles. So every Thursday evening, you'll get the chance to share your heart, express what's been going on for you. And that's so important. If you've been holding it in, there's going to be a group of people, a held field of presence for you to express and for you to share openly without judgment. And that is one of the most healing things you can do, is to open the throat and share what you're going through. I'll be leading live calls. There's a live call on social anxiety. Um, and we'll be traveling together as a group for 8 weeks, just really diving into this work. And it's about profound transformation. That's what we care about. And if you're really suffering, we love that. We don't love that you're suffering, but we like to help people who are really going through it. And if you're struggling with anxiety in whatever way, then we would love to help you. And you're welcome to jump on. We start on Tuesday, so you should get some emails about that. Check your junk folder if you haven't received it.